Dates and Mates with your host, Damona Hoffman.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to Dates and Mates. We are here to make modern love simple for you. I'm so glad that you are joining us on another fabulous Thursday here.
The 2-week winter is over. It's hot again, so that's good.
I know.
Sunset hour is sunny once more.
You know what, though, Producer Thomas? No one outside of LA even gives a damn to hear about our
the weather update.
2 week 50-degree winter.
Yeah.
You know, it's just over. But something exciting is coming for me soon because I don't know if you remember, but in April, I got married. My anniversary is coming up. So I thought, what a perfect time to talk about anniversaries. And I have the writer, director, producer of a new film that is going to be streaming on Netflix starting tomorrow called Happy Anniversary. Jared Stern is going to be here in studio with us to talk about this wonderful rom-com in a little bit. But that's not all. We have headlines for you, of course, like, can you swipe right on a coworker? Don't get any ideas, Producer Thomas.
I got to hold myself back.
We'll also be discussing a new dating app trend that you're going to want to know about. And I didn't want to talk about this one, but I can't. The headline seems to be following me. The Donald J. Trump Jr. saga, divorce saga, is the plot's thickening. So we're going to talk about that today. Plus, we have your questions that you've posted on the Techspert app, including how to encourage your boo to post about you. I was not trying to rhyme there, but I bet you liked it.
Yeah, it was great.
And what does it mean if a guy you asked out suddenly gets cold feet? All that and more on today's Dates and Mates. But first, let's kick it off with a dish.
Dee's dating dish.
Producer Thomas.
Yes.
I know we're not talking about us, but other office workplaces.
Yeah, it would be a little weird if we both ran into each other on a dating app.
On multiple levels.
Yeah, it would be strange.
But it's not so weird if you work in a big company, you're in a big city, and you're on Tinder, Bumble, or Hinge. You might come across someone that you know, that you work with. And apparently 40% of office workers have had a workplace romance. That number kind of surprised me.
In terms of, you thought it'd be higher or lower?
I thought it would be lower, and I kind of feel like I missed out on something now.
I don't know. I think it makes sense because if you spend 8 to 9 hours or 8 to 10 hours a day with people, I feel like romance can take root.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
There was one guy I had a crush on at an office. I will not go into details. And I would just kind of start hanging around with him, and he played in a band, and I was just...
Ooh. Was this your bad boy phase, Damona?
It was. He was not, though. He just happened to be in a band. But there was a band theme that went on for a little bit. And I would just kind of show up at his gigs. I'm like, oh, I'm just your number one fan. And I'm just buying you presents for your birthday.
Wow.
And I'm just like, we're just friends.
Yeah.
We're just friends. We work together. And he was like, I just want to let you know I'm not dating anyone from work.
Ooh.
And I was like, I'm not trying to date you. We're just friends. I'm just supporting your band.
You just hide the present. You brought him behind your back. What?
What are you talking about? You're so weird. But it's not so weird anymore. And actually, there's been a big increase in workplace romance in the last few years, even just since 2010, where there were 56% of people that were like, yeah, I'd date a coworker. Now it's 72% of people are engaging in workplace romance and not hiding it.
Yeah.
Not even trying to be like, let's be sneaky about this. They're just out and proud.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This article quoted work culture expert Allison Green, who said, don't do it, folks. Do not swipe right on a coworker, because what's happening is people are not just swiping right on a coworker because they are interested in a relationship. They're kind of doing oh, hey, I know you, swipe right. Let's have a friendly conversation.
Yeah.
But that, according to Allison Green, is a recipe for disaster, because what if you swipe right saying, oh, hey, and they're swiping right saying
hey.
Oh, hey. Suddenly you have yourself a little dating situation. And now, we talked about the Google rules for workplace romance. Now you can only ask someone out once. It's gotten to the point where the larger companies have to make rules around workplace romance because it is getting a little bit out of hand. And I've said for a while, I'm not a fan of it, but I hadn't really thought about this angle of the oh hey swipe right.
Yeah.
And how dangerous that can
I
really
remember in college, like, people that ran into each other on dating apps that, like, knew each other, like, as a joke, you would super like people was kind of like the...
As a joke?
Yeah, just like if you knew somebody, like, oh,
That's a
Mike's
waste of a super like.
Yeah, I
Why
guess,
would you do that? That's self-sabotage.
That's what I heard.
Well, while we're on the topic of swiping, Cosmo had a very interesting article on a very interesting, I love the dating terms. I like to keep you guys in the know. Have you heard of this one? It's called Obliga Swiping, like as in obligatory swiping. You see, dating apps now, they've just gotten to the point where they're just noise. They're just like, I mean, how many of you go on Instagram or Facebook and you're just... Scroll. So now that's just happening on dating apps. People are there and they have no intention of actually meeting anyone. They just get, I call it the abyss. They get sucked into the abyss and then they're just in the swipe zone. And this Cosmo reporter admitted that she's a victim of Obliga Swipe. I don't know if she's a victim, but she's guilty of Obliga Swiping. And what happens is she'll swipe, match, she gets that little hit of adrenaline, and then when they start talking about actually like getting on the phone or meeting up, she ghosts because it's just too much. The reality of actually meeting someone is just too overwhelming, and she backs out of it. And this is something that is really happening for a lot of my clients, and yet people come to me, and even in this article, she admits that she wants a relationship, but it sort of becomes this cycle of you want a relationship, but you're putting nothing into it, and then you're getting nothing back, and then you say online dating apps sucks, dating apps suck, dating is the worst today than it's ever been, and you don't get your needs met.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that the article said it's kind of like also a defense mechanism because like people get nosy and they're like, oh, you're single. Like, are you on a dating app? You just say, yeah, I'm on a dating app, even though just like to shut people up kind of, even though you have no intention of like using it.
Yeah, I'm just here.
Yeah.
Well, and then when I ask people, have you tried online dating? Have you tried dating apps? They'll be like, oh, yeah, I've tried it. And it's like, okay, just because you have it downloaded on your phone doesn't mean that you are using it. Just because I have the Weight Watchers app on my phone doesn't mean
watching
that
your weight necessarily.
Exactly. I don't know if you've noticed a difference in the last few weeks. I have not because I have not logged into the app.
There you go.
But I feel like I'm doing something because I'm paying for it.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. And see, people aren't even paying for the apps. I think there's going to be a big dating app revolution because it's just the barrier for entry is too low. It's free. You just sign on, you start swiping. You're like, oh, I could have a date. But nobody's actually moving off the app. Like 1 in 100 swipes actually turns into a date. And it's a slippery slope. Yeah. And we got to get off of that. Okay, I was gonna make a transition off of that
slippery slope.
No, off of getting off of that.
Oh.
But I'm not. But I want to. But I won't do it. I'll let you make that joke in your mind and tell you about the Donald Trump Jr. saga. Not to be confused with the other Donald Trump.
Well, that's another can of worms.
Adultery saga.
Yeah.
But who knew when we were having the conversation last week about Vanessa Trump and who she used to date? That the real story was not there. The real story was with Donald J. Trump Jr. and Aubrey O'Day. That is not a couple I would have picked out of a lineup.
You know, it's really hard to pick any couplings with the men in the Trump family. Nobody goes well with them.
Well, I mean, it was working out with Vanessa. He has 5 kids, as if we needed 5 little Trumps running around.
Yeah.
5 kids with her, and in the midst of it, in between kid 3 and kid 4, he started this affair with Aubrey O'Day, who was on Celebrity Apprentice, which is funny enough as it is. Yeah, apparently this was like a real serious relationship. And Us Magazine is saying, I don't know, I'm not saying it, but I read it somewhere that DJT, we'll call him, and Aubrey were even trying for a baby. He was like, ooh, baby, I love you. Even though my wife's pregnant, I want to have a baby with you, as if we needed 6.
Yeah, I guess he really likes having kids. He's got a lot of them.
Blows my mind, seriously. But it didn't work out for the two of them. Apparently, Vanessa found some emails going back and forth. And this is my favorite part of the article in Us Magazine. They said Vanessa called Aubrey on the phone with her kids in the background.
I mean, good for her. Put her on blast. Like, I don't know. I think that's a bold move.
It's so bold. And it's like, as if you didn't scar your kids enough.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's probably not great for the kids, but yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, as a mom, like
Yeah,
that is just,
yeah.
and then
All
now
right.
she's saying like, well, I don't want my kids to be affected by this. I'm like, you should have thought about
Yeah,
that
when you-
4 years ago when you're calling Aubrey O'Day on the phone. But apparently, Aubrey has been a little distraught about this too. She was so upset after the breakup that she had some very suspicious songs that she released. One called Somebody That I Used to Know, and the other called DJT. This is a big
I wonder
hit
what
song.
that's inspired
I
by.
really was trying to think of like, no, okay, well, maybe it means like, but it's
There's no phrase that
no.
is DJT. I don't
It's
think.
very clear who
Yeah.
that song is about. So I don't know. I think Us Magazine knows something that's going on, and we'll see how this works out. She does get around on the reality shows.
You know,
She had that thing with Pauly D too
Oh.
on Famously Single.
the esteemed DJ Pauly D.
Yeah, so we hope that Aubrey will get on another reality show soon
So, yeah, to
and
find
be
another
able
man.
to make a connection
Yeah.
and not go after somebody else's man with their 5 kids.
Yeah.
Get your own man and your own kids, Aubrey. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have Jared Stern, who is the author, writer, producer, director of Happy Anniversary, which is streaming on Netflix starting tomorrow. Can't wait to talk to him about this semi-autobiographical film. Right after this, you're listening to Dates and Mates. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Dates and Mates. I am your certified dating coach host, Damona Hoffman, here in studio with the very amazing Jared Stern. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. He is the writer, producer, and director of the Netflix original romantic comedy Happy Anniversary, which debuts tomorrow. He's also currently in production on the television adaptation of the Dr. Seuss classic story, Green Eggs and Ham, read frequently in my house, and you are going to love
It's a stone cold classic. I
Stone-
love Green Eggs.
I mean, that's why now you can
Yeah.
see it on Netflix soon. He's also written on a lot of big films, Wreck-It Ralph, The Internship, the Lego Movie, Lego Batman, Lego Ninjago. I'm going to Legoland this weekend, and so I'm so excited to be here with Jared Stern. Please give him big smooches.
I'm happy to be here. Hi, Damona.
Hi.
Hello.
Jared, I've known you a long time, sir.
That was so nice, by the way, all those things that you said about me. Thank you. I need you to come with me everywhere I go and tell everyone everything that I've done. So
Well, yeah, I could outsource. Yeah, I could be for hire
hype
for
man?
that.
Yeah.
I can be your hype man. But you know, I've been your hype man for a long time because I've been a fan of yours. And you've been friends with my husband since before I even knew him. I kind of want to know what some of those conversations were at the beginning, you know, when he like came home from the first couple dates and was like, yeah, I met this chick named Damona. You don't remember, that was too long ago.
You know, he kept it pretty close to the vest. We just talk about like sports and politics.
And still
really boring stuff.
Here we are, 15, 16 years later, it's the same thing. But what I really want to talk about is Happy Anniversary. And so just to give everybody a little background on the film, it's a romantic comedy, and it follows a couple who finds themselves at a crossroads in their relationship as they celebrate their 3-year anniversary of dating. And so the film's told over the course of a single day, and the couple has to decide whether they want to stay together or call it quits. And this film, Jared, is semi-autobiographical. So that must be a little bit strange as the writer and director of this film, how you tell a story that's sort of about your life without getting kicked out of the house or put on the couch.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's hard, you know. And my girlfriend of 10 years is also a writer, director, actress. So she made her own movie about our lives, and then I made one, and we're kind of dueling with these two movies. And just in general, it is really strange when you're writing about yourself because you're taking from your real life, but you're adding other stuff to it. And then when you see actors acting it out, you want them to make it real for themselves. And so sometimes you find yourself, oh, that's not exactly how it happened. And oh, that's kind of a little mean. I wouldn't want to upset my girlfriend because of how you said that. And yet you need to tell a great story. So it can be a mess, but it can also be a recipe for something great because you're taking real emotions and bringing them to life.
So when did you know that this was the story that you had to tell, inspired by your relationship?
Sure. I wrote on a movie called The Internship, and there was one scene with Owen Wilson and Rose Byrne where they're out to dinner. It was a romantic comedy scene, and I just loved writing that scene. And I talked about that, and I spoke with the producer of that movie and realized, you know what, I should just try writing an actual just romantic comedy. That's the whole movie. I hadn't done it before. And so then I started searching my real life and was like, what is my romantic comedy story to tell? What is the one that hasn't been told yet? And I looked at where I was at in my life around that time, and it was sort of put up or shut up time. You know, you've been in a relationship for a certain number of years, and maybe her biological clock is starting to tick, and you're running out of time, and you have to make that decision. It's now or never. And so that was the story that I wanted to tell. Yeah,
and you got two really awesome actors to tell this story. Noelle Wells, who was on Master of None, and Ben Schwartz from Parks and Recreation. What was it about the two of them? This must be the weirdest thing, like casting someone to play a semi-version of you. What was it about the two of them that made them the right fit to tell this story?
If you ask them, they say it's their hair. They both have amazing hair, just a lot of volume.
As do you.
No, mine is, that's probably why. I was wishful thinking. I was like, I wish.
Hair?
Yeah, Ben has my fantasy height and hair and acting abilities. No, they're both amazing performers. They're both, Noelle just wrote and directed and starred in a movie of her own called Mr. Roosevelt, which was great last year. And Ben is a great writer-director as well. He made this really fun parody of morning shows that he wrote and directed and starred in. So it was like cheating because they're both great writers and directors as well. So it was my first time directing. It was like having not only amazing performers, but people to really help make a great movie, tell a great story.
Yeah, but you have to be pretty confident to like deal with people that are like, well, I can do this too.
Yeah, or just be incredibly scared and honest about it. And they also, the other great thing about them is they're both super funny. They're both amazing improv performers. They come from comedy. Noelle was on Saturday Night Live. Ben does amazing improv shows with Thomas Middleditch, and so they're super funny, but they're also able to be real and honest. And I think when you see this, it's really exciting to see them as the romantic leads. They're both very funny, but they go to some really great real places in this film.
Yeah, it's exciting to like see someone's journey and then see it in real life and then see it sort of acted out on screen as well. And, I remember another thing, Jared, about your life way back when you were single, you were on J-Date, and I seem to remember you were like J-Date's Man of the Year.
I crushed it on J-Date.
You totally crushed it. I have to know, I know you met Michelle Morgan, your your life partner. When we say girlfriend, it's like, I always am like, what is the title if it's been 10 years?
We struggle with it because we don't ever want to get married. Nothing against marriage, but for us, we don't want to do it. And life partner, it's like, I don't know. Or maybe co-opting that from the LGBT community. So lately what I've been doing is I just say girlfriend of 10 years. Say it very quickly. Girlfriend of 10 years. Oh, this is my girlfriend of 10 years. Which sounds equally ridiculous.
That sounds really, really silly.
Honestly, we might just get married just to stop having stop having to figure out how to call it, what to call ourselves.
I remember that moment though, where it was like, oh, finally I have a label, because I went through a phase where it was like Seth and I had been together for a while, and I said, well, if I say boyfriend, it feels kind of flimsy.
It's casual, I guess.
Feels flimsy.
Yeah.
But we weren't married, and so I said partner, and then people were like, oh, and when will she be here? And I'm like, my partner's Seth. His name is Seth.
Yeah.
Like, how many girls do you know named Seth? So there was like a sense of relief in just getting married so that I had the label, and I was like, now I can explain who he is properly.
I might have to do it. Oh, but about J-Date, I crushed it on J-Date. It was like cheating. Like to me, J-Date was the opposite of spring break. When I went to spring break in Cancun when I was a senior in college, I was like, I was not meant for this. Like, this is not.
I was gonna say, I can't picture you.
This is the
like Girls Gone Wild.
I was like, I'm gonna meet girls. I was like, no,
opposite.
that is not gonna happen for me. And then J-Date was like, oh my god, now I know how like the guys with barbed wire tattoos felt at Cancun. That was me on J-Date, because I was like, not only is it people who I think might be slightly more interested in me in general, but you got to write something about yourself. So it was basically writing your own little romantic comedy character on as your bio, and then that's where I met Michelle, who's also a romantic comedy writer.
You guys were just witty on top of witty.
We had an epistolary romance for like the first 3 weeks. We just emailed her IM the entire time, and then we were both really nervous when we met in person, because we were like, okay, we know we're both funny and great and we like each other writing, but what if we didn't like each other in real life? Luckily we kind of did.
Yeah, and you said she made the first move too. She wrote to you first.
She did. She emailed me, and she's not Jewish, which was funny on J-Date. But yes, and
she's that girl that all the Jewish girls really resent for being on J-Date.
I'm sure, but she called it out in her name. She said she was a.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If she's interested or attracted to Jewish guys, I mean, obviously she is.
Yeah. I'm not religious, but that's one of the few things that I thank God for, is that that beautiful woman somehow liked Jewish guys.
So, what was it that? I mean, obviously she's gorgeous. What was it that really stood out to you? Just the fact that she was writing to you, because usually it's the other way around. Most guys are sending the messages, or was there something in the message? Like, I'd love to give the people that are listening that are still looking for their girlfriend of 10 years some insights on why this worked.
I don't remember if it was the very first message she sent, but pretty quickly there's one thing that stands out in my memory. I think maybe I said that I liked I was thinking I liked high culture and low culture, so like cheesy 80 movies and classical music or something, but I don't like classical music. I forget what I said. And
it probably is what you said. That's what people do.
And and anyway, I remember her writing back talking about the worst sort of jerks in 80s movies, and we started writing back, and I forget, but she called out a few of my favorites. So it was like the guy William Atherton, who's in Real Genius and Ghostbusters. He's the guy in Ghostbusters that like shuts down the grid, and he just was so good at being a jerk. And then I was talking, and then we just went back and forth about that, and I was like, oh, she likes the same weird things that I do and has a good sense of humor, and that's the first thing that really grabbed me.
So it's responding to the profile, but taking it to the next level, where like it sounds like she jumped into the dialogue right away. I just feel like so many times people are just like, oh, I saw that you like cats. I like cats too. What else do you like? And it's just not as engaging as like having real commentary on the profile. What was it in your profile that made you the star of J-Date?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like I said, I think maybe it was like decent writing. Like probably most people aren't great writers, and I got to like write a little paragraph that said who I was.
Do you think your technique would still work today in the swipe world?
I mean, I don't know. I was listening to you talk about all that stuff earlier, and I was like, oh, man, I'm glad that I
out the
got out.
game.
Yeah, when I did. Because I think that actually is more like Cancun, right? I think the swipe game is probably more just, I've never done it, but I think it's probably more you're looking at a picture and you're flipping and you're flipping. And I have friends now who I've noticed that their Instagram posts sometimes are like, what is that photo about? And then I realize, oh, it's because their dating swiping photos are coming from that, and so that's why they're posting that way. And it's, oh man, I just feel lucky that I got out when I did. I don't think that would have been great for me.
So being in a relationship now for 10 years, having a girlfriend of 10 years, and as you're writing this film, what did you learn about your relationship? And I know it's been a while since you wrote it. It takes a little while to make movies, and your relationship has evolved since then.
We have completely different problems now than the people in the movie.
Do you want to tell
Demona
about them?
Is there a sequel planned?
I know, right? There could always be a sequel. But what did you learn about relationships from writing this, and where has it left you in your relationship now 10 years later?
Yeah, it's making a movie is a little bit like, especially if you're making it semi-autobiographically and thinking about love and relationships, it's a little bit like therapy. It forces you to analyze what happened, how each other were thinking and feeling. I even, I had her read stuff, and she'd be like, that's not what I was thinking there. That's not how I was feeling. And I was like, oh, wow, I always saw it this way, but that's how you were thinking there. And one of the toughest things was I also really want to be hard on myself. Like, there's been a lot of great romantic comedies that I love, like Annie Hall or 500 Days of Summer, that are more from the man's perspective. And sometimes they balance it out and you see the woman, but I really wanted this to be fully even and to see both sides. And I think hopefully we accomplished that. And so that meant having to look at myself. And I was like, okay, what are the things that I do wrong? What are my flaws? Which was not easy.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah. So, and I always got those wrong too. It was like, nope, those weren't your flaws. This is your flaw.
That's a good technique, I think, for people to examine their relationship through writing and I want to try that at home now. Like, even for people who aren't writers, just like write about your relationship.
Sorry, Seth.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Have your partner read it and tell you what they were actually thinking in that moment. So the film comes out on Netflix tomorrow. What are you hoping that people will get from watching the film, other than a few laughs, of course, as a rom-com, and the nice rom-com feeling? It's a little bit of a roller coaster. What are you hoping that people will take away in the end?
Yeah, I mean, I think the basic notion for me is that a lot of romantic comedies, just kind of have sort of obvious, like, just fall in love type of things. And then there's some smarter ones that are more cynical, where they break up at the end. And a lot of romantic comedies on TV now, for example, are pretty dark. And I think mine is kind of in between. It's sort of at the end about being realistic and wanting to be happy, and realizing that you're not always going to be happy, and that love isn't even always just about happiness. It's about other stuff, and deciding if this is the person that you want to be with, that you find something special in, and realizing it's going to be a journey. You're never just gonna, there's never going to be that one moment, for me at least. My perspective is that, like, I wish that there was a thing where, like, balloons fell and there were, like, you were the 100th shopper and
you won at the game of love.
Yeah. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and maybe that's always going to be a relationship, is figuring it out, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a great relationship. And that was what I was thinking, 5 years ago, and we're still together 5 years later, so maybe it works.
Well, you're doing something right. And I know through this journey, you have a lot more advice to give. So I would love to address some of the questions that have come in from our listeners on the Techspert app in Technically Dating.
Technically Dating.
All right, Jared. Even though you are not a dating coach, I think going through this experience qualifies you absolutely to answer these questions. And I'm very curious as a writer also how you will phrase your responses. So this one comes to us from a female. She is from the UK, where things are a little different. She says, I asked a guy out. He said yes. We started working out dates. We've been talking and getting to know each other. Now he doesn't want to do it anymore. Did I do something wrong?
Well, first of all, do they swipe right and left backwards because they drive on the opposite side
Oh
of
my
the
God.
road?
See?
in
And
England?
that's what you get when you have a writer on the show. Very clever, Jared.
Okay, so wait. So what's the question here?
She asked a guy out. He
Right.
said yes. They were talking about when it was going to happen. And then he was like, yeah, actually, no, I don't want to go anymore.
Did
and
she
she's
do
of
something
course.
wrong?
Yeah, this is how girls think.
Right.
Like internalizing. He said yes. That was what he meant in the moment. But, who knows what happened in the interim while you were going back and forth on dates. Maybe he met somebody else. Maybe he decided he's not that into you. Maybe he was drunk when he said yes. I don't know. But I hate it when women then make it about themselves and something being wrong with them or them doing something wrong that caused this effect.
Yeah, she didn't do anything wrong. She tried, and then he fell away for whatever reason. If she still really likes him, then I think she should just be radically honest and just go, hey, what happened? We kind of almost had this thing. Do you want to, hang out? Or no big deal. Just let me know.
I wish I could, bottle that no big deal and sell that to people, because
You
it's
make a lot of money.
I would, but nobody wants to buy it because people don't really want the truth sometimes. And so they're afraid to ask that question because if the truth is, no, actually, I don't want to go out anymore, or, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else, or whatever it was, then it stings. It stings when you get a rejection. But I feel like we're putting too much emphasis on each individual interaction and giving too many people outside that we don't even know so much power over us and our emotions.
Right. Well, see, that seems to me one of the good things about hookup culture or swiping is that at least, I was knocking it before and saying I'd be bad at it, but it is kind of nice that it puts less pressure on it because, they're just kind of these smaller, lighter things. And if one of them clicks, and then it turns into something else great. But yeah, it's too bad that she's putting that pressure on herself. You should not do that.
Yes, I will go to datesandmates.com and I will sell you a bottle of.
No big deal.
Don't even worry about it. Okay, so this is from a female. She's 19. Jared, she's from New York. And she said, what's the nicest way to tell my boyfriend I want him to post a photo on social media of me and him so all these hoes can F off and make them jealous? This is actually one of my favorite Textbook questions in a long time. I literally spit take and laughed.
Seems
LOL.
like it takes a very angry turn at the end. So all these hoes.
Yeah, so these hoes can F off. I literally spit took on that one.
All right, so how does she ask
She
him?
wants him to post on social media.
Right.
Change the status, change the picture, tag, and be like, this is my boo. Claim me. Claim me on social media.
Right. Okay, so should she just be honest and find a nicer way of saying that? Or should she lie? I'm thinking of some lies for that one. Some lies for that one are my mom really wants to see a nice picture of us, right? If you put it in that way, that's a good lie version of that.
Can you friend my mom on Facebook? No, she's 19. She's not on Facebook. Who am I kidding? This is Instagram or Snapchat.
Okay, so then no one cares about your parents on there.
That was a good one, though. That was a
Yeah.
good one. So can we think up a really grand lie of why she needs...
I would just say that. That's a powerful statement to get all these hoes to F off. I'd be like, oh, all right.
So if I'm going to go clinical now, I'd be like, well, why do you have such insecurity in your relationship that you're so worried about these hoes? Because, the hoes can hang around, but that doesn't mean if you trust your boyfriend of however many months.
Boyfriend of 10 years.
Boyfriend of 3 months.
Yeah.
If you trust him, who cares about the hoes, right? I got to get that bottle of
Yeah. Yeah.
who gives a crap back out. I
maybe-
forgot the name of my product
Yeah.
already.
Have to have a branding meeting.
Or maybe just say, look, I look great in this photo. Would you post it? I feel really good about how I look here. I'm looking so amazing here, and you're in it. Could you just post this one? And then maybe that would be another way. But I agree with you. She should just be confident and go, and also she's probably asking, when is the time? When will he acknowledge that this is a true relationship? That's when you start posting those photos. That means you don't have 1 foot in and 1 foot. Well, I don't want to post that photo because I'm still keeping myself open to those other hoes.
Right, exactly. and it's all in the feed.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's really happening in the relationship will show up in the feed and not in the DM, as they say. But yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. I think she should just say, she should acknowledge what she's feeling. Like, it feels like we do a lot of things together, but you never seem to post when we're together. Yeah, I'd love to share on my social that we're in a relationship. Like, maybe you would post a photo sometime too.
Mm-hmm.
And then just wait and see how he reacts.
Well, yeah, because if he gets weird about it, then maybe there is something
Yeah.
about those other hoes.
I was just talking to a client yesterday about the art of the pause.
The art
Like,
of the
say a statement and then pause and listen and really hear the response that comes back. And women are so afraid of the pause. We want to fill it in with words. And yet when you wait and you make it a little bit awkward, you can really see what people are thinking.
Yeah.
Let it be awkward.
I'm not going to respond. I'm just pausing.
I know. Did you see what? And I did it. I fell in the trap.
You did it.
I fell in my own
Self-defeating
trap.
prophecy.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you see? It's powerful.
Yeah.
See, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, Jared, this is like a real basic one. I'm just going to give it to you straight here. This lady asks, take socks off during sex or nah?
Oh. It's a good question.
We're going to go all the way around on this, too.
Yeah.
I'm
First instinct.
definitely off.
Definitely
It
off.
looks, but I mean, with a
Cares
caveat.
about how it looks.
A caveat. Early on, it looks to me weird. Definitely take them off. But like 10 years on and it's cold and you're getting to have sex, I would say leave them on. So, depends.
I say off just because I like my feet to be free. You know, I'm a yogi, an earth mama, and it helps me. It just helps me ground and be more in touch with myself and my partner.
Yeah.
Producer Thomas.
I mean, I suppose if you're taking everything else off, you might as well take your socks off.
It's
It's like
weird,
weird to like
right?
specifically not make that effort. If I'm already undoing my pants and everything, I might as well take
You
the
might
effort
as
to take
well.
off the socks.
yeah, then it's just lazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a blood flow issue though. Like if keeping your feet warm.
It's like improved circulation.
Yes.
He's
and
trying to make the case here.
You want the blood going to the right places.
Not to
and
not to your feet. You have that taken care of. Good answer. Good questions today too.
Yeah.
People are just being real honest about how they're feeling. Okay, this comes to us from another female. She's from North Carolina. She says, I've been talking to this guy for a week. We finally meet up for a date, and I'm not attracted to him. But I don't want to break it to him and make him sad. Our conversations over the phone are really good, but in person, I feel no connection. At this point, I have no clear idea what to do. Can you help?
Oh man.
Jared, can you help? I mean, I'm sure in the J date of it all, you dealt with this, like people that you had the connection with. You said you were so nervous when you and Michelle met up for the first time because you had that connection on the phone or over email or text. Did we have text back then?
I think so.
Back
Not
in the day.
that old.
You had like first generation iPhone. I remember you were an iPhone OG.
I did.
So you probably were iMessaging way back then. But what happens then when you show up to the date and it's just not what you expected and there isn't that chemistry?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, if it's early enough, then it's not that big of a deal. I would say even sometimes it's okay to like ghost away a little bit because you didn't. There wasn't like a ton of buildup, but this had a lot of buildup. It sounds like they really got to know each other. They really like each other. So I actually think she just has to be honest with him and just say, look, you are a great person. I'm just not feeling that chemistry, and it can just happen sometimes, and sometimes it just doesn't. It could be like a smell. It could be anything. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. It can be a smell. Pheromones are powerful. This is one of the reasons that I have people actually get on the phone before the date, because sometimes you can tell something in the voice that you can't tell over text. But also, I'm going to argue the other side too. This is another reason why I encourage people to do 3 dates. Remember my 3-date rule. Because the first date, people are nervous and they're not really themselves. And if you had a connection over text and over email, it's possible that something could develop. Generally for guys, if you are not feeling attracted to her on the first date, it's kind of dead in the water. It's not going to happen. But for a woman, I find that chemistry really can develop. And so I would encourage her to maybe just give it a second date. If you really felt like you had that much connection over email, like, don't be so quick to we're just too quick now to be like, no, next, no, didn't work, next.
I think you're absolutely right, because now that I think back, and it's actually, there's a scene in the movie in Happy Anniversary where Noelle's the character says, I missed the guy that I met 3 years ago, that, and he's like, are you kidding? You hated the guy that you met. So she has this rose-colored glasses of when they first met, it was romantic, which it kind of was because it was new, but he reminds her that, like, you hated me when you met, and she talks about this, she hated his hair, made him change his haircut, hated his clothes. I remember I wore a sweater vest on my first date. I thought I was looking super fly.
Now we're in the reality
This
portion.
is real, yeah. That was
Did you
terrible.
see how that went
Yeah,
seamlessly
there's
between?
okay.
Yes.
You wore a sweater vest?
Sweater vest, yeah.
And that was...
It looked nerdy. It looked
not-
nerdy. And
But geek is chic,
could be, but
It wasn't on this.
yeah, not
So
for me.
she just, like, got in there and tore apart your wardrobe.
Hair, everything. So
Why do we do that? Why do we gals do that? I mean, I did the same thing to Seth, obviously.
and he looks fantastic.
Doesn't he? I mean, if you look at pictures of him from 15 years ago and pictures now, I'm like, you're so lucky.
You glowed him up.
I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
always say this to the ladies. Like, don't expect him to come to you, like, done. Like, if he was done, he would already be...
You like a nice project.
yeah, he'd already be, like, hooked up.
Right.
You gotta put your stamp on
Yeah.
things.
I think you have the right man for that. Like, I was open. There's certain things that I wouldn't have changed about my life or my personality, but I didn't care about my sweater vest. I was like, all right, fine. But some people don't, I bet there's some things that people are like, no, that's me. I'm not changing it. And that's fine. But I'm glad, because I was feeling bad for this person, but now she might go on 2 more dates and we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And I will say I changed a little bit too. And I think you have to be open to adapting to your partner's wants, needs, ideas. I think you have to be open. So I've adapted a little bit. I've become more. Seth says I've become more conservative,
No, interesting.
which was like a dagger to my heart. And then I was like, I got to get out all my old hoe clothes. But now I'm a mom, and it's just like, you can't wear
be
hoe
wearing
clothes
hoe
when you're a
clothes.
mom.
Well, why not? If
You
if
think
you're
it's
feeling
okay?
it, it's 2018.
I'm going to be at Legoland like,
yeah.
hey. No. Okay. This is an interesting one. This comes to us from a gal from Killeen, Texas. I'm not sure where Killeen is. You ever been to Killeen, Texas?
I don't know, no.
It's a big state. So somewhere in Texas, she says, a guy I've been recently talking to, that means like kind of dating, right? Not official, but whatever. A guy I've been recently talking to smokes weed. I've told him I don't like it. And he said he would change for me. But today we got an argument because he decided to go and smoke weed knowing that I didn't like it. And he broke his promise. Should I let him smoke as long as it's not around me, or should I just stop talking to him altogether? Is this a deal breaker?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm going to get this wrong again. You're going to tell me the right answer. So I think
There's no wrong answers.
I think there might be a compromise where I like, she's even suggesting the compromise in her question, right? Which is I let him smoke weed not around her. Like,
Yeah.
I love sports. Michelle does not like sports, but she does. If there's like a big game going and I tell her that it's important to me, she's like, yeah, go watch that game. She's not like, no, you have to do this thing with me. So I think that's what she should do. Like, that's cool if you want to smoke weed with your boys. That's cool. But maybe if you're around me, I don't love it. So we could find some balance there.
You're right, Jared.
All about right and wrong.
Yeah.
I have to win.
You won that one. I think the issue is, though, with something like smoking weed, one, it's a lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it's not like going to watch the game where you like watch the game for, I don't know how many hours games are on, like 5 hours? 4
It feels
hours?
like it to you, but it's 3.
Feels like it feels like forever.
Yeah.
That's like you go watch the game for 3 hours and then you're done. If you go and you wake and bake and then we have brunch plans or you're meeting my parents later and you're all spaced out and the way that I don't like to be with you, it kind of bleeds over a little bit. So it's I think with this particular thing, it's a little hard to to draw a line between doing it and not doing it, like, around me. But what I will say is that this is his lifestyle. It was his lifestyle before. It's his lifestyle choice. And honey, you ain't going to change him. If he wants to stop smoking weed, like, you can say, I'm not into it and I don't like smoking weed, but you can't say, and you better stop because of me.
Yeah. See, you can change the sweater vest. You can't change smoking weed. Like, that's how he's medicating. That's how he's living his life.
That is how he lives his life.
I don't know. I think there is some caution to be had of, like, if he needs to be, like, high to, like, hang out with her, then that might be a problem.
He said he would change for her.
But he didn't.
Because it's not addictive.
Yeah, but I don't know.
See, I find I need to be around people who are healthy because I will just gravitate right into their, like, unhealthy behavior, whatever it is. You know, like, I couldn't be I'm like a social smoker, so I couldn't hang out with someone who smokes because I'd be smoking all the time. I like being with somebody who doesn't do anything wrong because then they're not dragging me.
They're not dragging you down.
Yes.
Down into the depths. I didn't know that about you,
Yeah.
social smoker.
Not anymore, though, because I'm with somebody who doesn't smoke.
Yeah, it's not part of the social anymore. Okay. One last question. Producer Thomas, do we have time for one last question?
If
Okay.
we give definitive answers and don't discuss them.
Well, I can never do
I was
that.
just kidding.
I can never do that. So I'm just going to stop right here. The show is over. No, it's not over. But I do just want to remind everyone to watch Happy Anniversary on Netflix. And I'm just so excited that you were able to sit here with us and talk about your semi-autobiographical film and be so open and honest about your relationship.
Oh, thank you so much. This was awesome. And yes, please go watch Happy Anniversary on Netflix. It's kind of free. I don't feel so bad. Normally when you tell someone to watch a movie, they have to go out. They got to pay for it. It's like you're probably already paying for it or stealing Netflix subscription.
No. We don't do that. We don't. I always say I have a very good friend who does not buy movies and stuff. And I'm like, you're taking food out of my baby's mouth.
That's right.
She doesn't care. She just cares about free movies. But yes, it is on Netflix. And you're also on social media. You're on the Twitter and the Instagram at Real Jared Stern.
Instagram, Real Jared Stern. Twitter, just Jared Stern. I got in early. At Jared Stern.
See, you're an early adopter. I like that about you, and I like this film. So thank you for being here to talk about it. And hope everyone will go check it out. But the show's not over. We got to talk about these things that get under my skin. And there's something very important that I'm all riled up about. So, Producer Thomas, let's put 60 seconds on the clock for me to diatribe about waiting women. Okay, I had a client yesterday who said she wanted to see this guy she's been dating for a while, but she would wait until he messaged her. And I thought, honey, this ain't the 1950s. But my client is not alone. You see, many women are fantasizing about a simpler time. But let's also remember that during that simpler time, we had fewer rights, we had fewer opportunities, we were stuck in loveless relationships because we had to stay with someone for financial security. We want our freedom, but too many women are still sitting on the sidelines waiting for romance to happen. Waiting women, I want to encourage you to live in the now. Live in the time where you have options. Live in the time where many of them are just a swipe away. Live in the time where you can choose who you want to have sex with without it meaning something about your character. Live in the time where you can text a guy without his masculinity feeling threatened. The future of the relationship is so much brighter here. Our options are plentiful and our connections are so much stronger. But if it requires you to stop waiting, you have to do that. Stop waiting and start simply saying what you want. Thank you so much for joining us. That's our show. If you have a question, hey, why not email me? We're going old school here. Damona@DamonaHoffman.com. And we have pics, quotes, clips, so much more on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Damona Hoffman. And I do want to give a big thanks and a shout out to our listener, Vince, who left us a lovely review on iTunes. He said, love this podcast. The guests are highly knowledgeable and very informative, just like Jared Stern. But that's not all. Yeah, you'll have to see what he had to say about me on iTunes when you go there and leave your review. And also check out Beachbody. You can get 30 days risk-free at Beachbody On Demand. Click the banner on datesandmates.com or the link in the show notes. And as always, you can post your questions on Techspert, and you might see it on a future show. We will be back next week after Legoland. I'll have lots of stories to regale you with. And until then, I wish you happy dating.